Shalom. So happy to have you here today with me. It has been an absolutely wonderful week, and many of you have joined us as we were going through Sukkot this year, and it has been absolutely amazing. So, thank you so much for being with me today. Today, we're going to be discussing the Mussar of compassion. So, let's just dive right into that because compassion and empathy, these are the Mussar attributes, the soul traits that we have, that if we are putting ourselves fully into these soul traits and doing what Hashem wants us to do, it is absolutely the cure for boredom. So if life has just become kind of the same old 6 and 7 every day, and you feel that there's just kind of nothing else new under the sun for you, then let's just look at this, because I know that Hashem has something in store for you that's going to cure boredom in your life. And not only is it going to cure your boredom, but it's going to be exponentially beneficial for you in so many areas of your own life. So let's look at this, why being compassionate is important. And how is it that it's the cure for boredom? Well, compassion is important because it promotes meaningful connections in your life. It facilitates problem solving, and it even improves your health and well being. So we can see that it actually affects every area of our life, our body, our soul, and our spirit. Well, that sounds like it's too simple, right? Just to be a compassionate person. But yet, it's a powerful antidote for boredom, which also is a cure for low self esteem, self pity, and even more. So, compassion at its core is about putting aside, first of all, judgment and refusing to turn away from challenging situations. And it's about understanding the stringencies and the struggles that other people have, and just the help that other people need. If we could just understand the struggles that people have and why they've even fallen into bad times in the situations, the the troughs, as it were. So let's look at this a little bit closer, because we want to see other people through the eyes of Messiah. This is why it is important to understand what our soul traits are, because every one of them have to do with the attributes of Yeshua HaMashiach, Hashem himself. So actually, we will be looking at the 13 attributes of Hashem this for the next 6 weeks. So let's look at this number one, which is compassion. As we know, when Moshe on Mount Sinai asked Hashem to let him see his glory, what did he do? He says, well, you can't see my glory. Basically, you can't see it and live. You wouldn't be able to comprehend it anyway. So therefore, let me show you my essence. And its essence began with compassion, with mercy. So, in order to be like Hashem and be his hands and his feet, and be his servants, we have to have compassion and mercy. So, how does this happen? How do we instill this in our soul trait? How do we um, uh, facet this stone, this beautiful diamond of soul trait that's within us? How do we get off the rough edges of lack of empathy and selfishness, and basically turning a blind eye to those that need help? Well, compassion at its core is about putting off, first of all, a judgmental spirit and refusing to turn away from difficult situations. And most of the time, when you think about having to have compassion and mercy, it's because someone is going through a trial in their life or a difficult situation. Um, and it even can be people that Hashem would show us that have a life of difficulty, a life of tragedy and crisis that they are unable to deal with anymore, and life has become too challenging and overwhelming for them, and therefore they're at the mercy of those who would have compassion on them. So it's important for us to understand that as humans, we thrive within a community. And that is one of the reasons why Lapid Judaism is so important, because it is developing communities all over the world. And without a community, you really just can't thrive. You may be able to survive out there on the street or survive alone within some small group, but to really thrive, you need community. Because within community, we all have these soul traits that each of us need. They are gifts to one another. So humans thrive in communities, and we were created to be social human beings, to be social. Um, Not just base attribute like an animal, but to really be social and not just be in a community to kind of, hover together, but to actually be beneficial to one another. So we see that at its best, the community cares for one another. We care for each member that's in the community. And it says we have less suffering if we will have total compassion, just a tenacious action from everyone in the community, then we will all thrive together. So as we see is if we help one another, we actually have less suffering in our own life. And this is one of the benefits of walking in our soul traits, being kind, being generous, being loyal, and so forth, is that midot increases then in our own life. Even HaShem says that I will have compassion on those who are compassionate, right? I will forgive those who are forgiving. So as we reach out beyond ourselves and let go of selfishness and that always looking inward to see what's in it for us, but to just be tenacious about looking around our community and seeing what HaShem would want us to do to benefit someone else. We may see others around us who are suffering and turn a blind eye. Why would we do that? Why would we literally turn a blind eye to suffering? Well, we see that sometimes it's because we just really don't know how to help. Maybe if we see someone that has so much trauma in their life or so much need in their life, if we don't know what we can personally do to help, sometimes it's just so overwhelming, we just refuse to look at it and pretend it doesn't exist. So we're going to talk today a little bit about ways to overcome that. As we look at one of the stories that a parable that Yeshua taught us, actually it's about the Good Samaritan. And I know you've had many teachings on the Good Samaritan, and basically the question is, who is my neighbor, right? And that's sometimes difficult to comprehend. Who is my neighbor? Because as we look around, we look at a literal person in our neighborhood, perhaps someone that actually lives next door across the street from us. Is that our neighbor? Are we supposed to get involved with their personal lives and kind of knock on their door and try to intrude on their lives? No, we know that that's not correct. This is not what HaShem is trying to teach us. Basically, anyone within our eye view or within our hearing is actually our neighbor. And why is that? It is because our neighbor is actually an attribute. It is mercy. It is compassion, because that is who HaShem is. He is mercy and he is compassion, and he wants us to take that attribute and give it out to those who need it. And guess what? We all need compassion. We all need mercy. Can you think of your life just in the last few weeks? Can you ask yourself, when did I need some compassion? When did I need someone to understand a little bit about what I was going through and give me a word of encouragement, or give me just a hug, just to show I'm with you, I'm here, I'm praying for you, and I want to encourage and lift you up today. That is compassion, and that is mercy, and that is being a neighbor. That is giving of compassion and mercy to others, and that is being a neighbor. And everyone is your neighbor, and you yourself is a neighbor to everyone else, because we all have that need. So first of all, when we see a community project, for instance, that is reaching out to certain groups of people that have different needs and so forth, the first thing we do is just acknowledge that exists. One of the things that Lapid Judaism is interested in, that HaShem has given us a heart for, is the widow and the orphan. And so we have to acknowledge that there are widows and orphans in our world that need compassion, that need someone to look after them with empathy. And sometimes when you hear that say for instance that Lapid Judaism reaches out to widows and orphans, you might be thinking, oh, they're just asking for money. But that's not it at all, because throwing money at a need is not necessarily a way to meet that need. Why? Because when someone has a need for mercy and compassion, it usually means that we need boots on the ground. You need to reach out to one another with hands of compassion. And that means getting involved. That means coming out of our own comfort zones where we take care of our four and no more, and actually reach out with our own hands. Maybe it is getting involved in a community where you are feeding the homeless, or meeting other needs of the homeless. Maybe there's education that they need, rehab services that they need, clothing. There's so many things that actually takes boots on the ground. It's people. It's going out and reaping the harvest. You just can't throw money at a farm field that is ready for harvest. You can't just throw money at it and put money in an account. What does it need? It needs harvesters. It needs equipment, and that it needs human beings to run that equipment. And that's what HaShem is asking us, to be the human beings that actually reach out with our hands and our feet and love people and get involved with their needs and get involved with helping them come out of the tragic and the crisis situations that they may be in. And that sometimes takes actually getting to know people. That's where it may be a little more difficult. It's easy just to send a check to an organization, but when to really get out of boredom, because just sending money to an organization is not going to really meet that issue of boredom. Boredom means lack of action. And so let's look at action for one of the keys to get rid of boredom. One of the things that you need to do is we have to actually get to know people so that we can understand the people, have different perspectives than we do. They've grown up differently. They've had different teachings than we've had. Life has thrown them maybe some different curves than we have dealt with. So it's very important before sometimes we can help someone is to actually get to know them, get to understand them, the integral parts of what make up their behavior. And that way we can understand where they're coming from. Sometimes we look at a person and we make a judgment on the way they behave, some of the words that come out of their mouth, and immediately we make a judgment on them, which might keep us from being compassionate and understanding. So we need to actually get to know people, get to know that person that's in your community before making a judgment against them, okay? And we do this by seeing and understanding them from a different point of view, not just by looking at the book's cover, but let's actually get into the book and let's get to know that person so that we can try to understand why they do the way they things that they do. Why do they feel the way they feel about life, and why do they behave the way they do that may be adding to the negative aspects of their situation? You know, sometimes you might find out that they are people that are trying to do their best, just like we all are trying to do our best. And by understanding that they have situations that have molded them and made them the personality that they are, can sometimes dispel all of the judgmental attitudes that we have toward them. And this may be prejudice against a group of people from other countries. It may be a prejudice against a particular religion that they have been involved in, but just prejudice in general. So, in order for us to let go of prejudice, we are going to have to get to know people. We're going to have to get to know people groups and have a better understanding of what has made them become what they are. So, in order to become a compassionate person, we have to let go of prejudice. You know, if you've lived very long in this life, most of us have prejudice, and some of us have prejudices against things that we don't even realize. There's a prejudice there that we just don't know that is there until we begin to get involved with other people's lives. And then these things begin to show their ugly faces. You know, a lot of people don't understand that they have prejudice against Jews in general, and that is anti-Semitism. So, do you realize that there are Jews that actually have prejudice against Judaism? I know that sounds crazy, but it's there. And I know that we've seen sometimes in the Christian faith that there are people that say that they love Israel, they love Jerusalem, they love the Messiah of Israel, but deep down, they just don't like Jews. Do you know that that is a prejudice that most people and a lot of Christians are not even aware of? If you ask them, are you prejudiced against Jews? And they would say, oh, heavens, no. I love Israel. I love the God of Israel. I love the Messiah of Israel. But yet they will actually get into the Torah and begin to say, but Torah is not for today. And those Jews rejected Messiah, and now I've become Israel. Wow. So you see, this prejudice can go so deep, and yet we're not even aware of it. So, in order for us to become a compassionate people, we have to let go of prejudices. So, when we judge others, what happens is we place a social barrier between us and other people. As we see the parable that Yeshua was teaching us about the Good Samaritan, what happens? We see that there's a man who has been, robbers basically have jumped on him on this road and pelted him, have left him for dead, robbed him of everything. And it appears that he's either dead or critically wounded. That seems to be the picture that Yeshua painted. But what we see also is that first the priest sees this and turns a blind eye immediately and moves to the other side of the road to avoid any kind of contact with this person. Never, evidently, the thought did not ever cross his mind to just look to see, is this person still breathing? And is there someone that we could call to perhaps help this person, to get some kind of medical help for this person? But instead, turning a blind eye if a situation looks overwhelming and just crossing the path and allowing the person to die or whatever. So we see that there's these people that continue to walk by this man who was critically wounded. But what happens? We see that there is a Samaritan. Now, the Samaritan, they were not known for their kindness. They were not known for their religious attributes. But what this Samaritan showed us was, he taught us that it's compassion that should drive the heart of a person. So this Samaritan literally goes over, checks this man out, realizes that he is alive. He takes care of him. He takes him to an inn where he has food given to him and whatever medical treatment needed to happen to take care of his wounds. And I'm sure he was bleeding and a hot mess. And then, not only that, he pays for everything. Now, this is a person who does not know this human being that he has found on the side of the road. He has no relationship with this person whatsoever. This person has never done anything good for him. And as he can see that this human being has no money, is very ill, is going to have to be taken care of probably for some time before he can get on his way. And so this means that anything that he does for this person, any money that he gives the innkeeper for taking care of his needs, he will never get repaid for that. So we can see that he's not taking care of this man with any kind of anticipation of a reward. He doesn't say, here's my name and my address, so when this man gets better, he can pay me back for the good deed that I did for him. No, he just leaves it at that, and he even leaves more money there in case the man might need it for their night's lodging or whatever. And he says, take care of anything that he needs, and here's more money. So when we think about doing acts of kindness, these compassion, these midot, a mitzvah, then we have to do it with a pure heart without any expectation of reward for our good deeds, okay? So let's think about that and remember, it's so important that we take action. Compassion isn't simply about understanding someone else's situation, but it's about being inspired to take action. So this week, as we are studying the midot of compassion, let's remember why we are here. We have been given mandates. We are here for a purpose. We're here for a mission. And our mission God has given us all of the tools that we need to go about this earth and take care of the people that he has created. He says, these are my sheep. They're all my sheep. And I have called you to have compassion and empathy and show kindness to my sheep. And they are all part of the harvest. And as we look even at the backdrop today, we see the wheat, we see the harvest, and HaShem is crying out to us to open the windows of our eyes and look around. Stop being bored. Stop feeling sorry for ourselves and wondering what else we can do to make ourselves happy, to energize ourselves along this path. So if we are just looking for another fix for our boredom, and we think that a cruise or a vacation or some kind of entertainment or a new TV program or another game for those who are addicted to gaming is going to meet that need, I can tell you, friends, it will not. It will not. Your purpose is to be the hands and feet of Messiah. And if we are not fulfilling that, we are going to be bored. We are going to be full of hopelessness and self-pity. And we will be addicted to things that give us some feeling of euphoria. As Dr. Tversky has taught us, that addictions, drug and alcohol, immorality, all of these addictions that we get involved in that overwhelm our lives are just escapism for boredom, because we have not been taught that we have a purpose, that we have a mission to fulfill on this life in this earth. And today we can be a part of this great and wonderful harvest that HaShem is putting us in. And we know that time is short. Moshiach is coming soon, and he's looking for those of us who will be his hands and feet in the earth. So I implore you today to work on the medot of compassion. You have it. We all have it. God gave it to us in the inception of our life, but we have to uncover it. We have to get rid of many things that cover up this beautiful diamond gift that's in us, and that is selfishness, low self-esteem, thinking only of what we can do to please ourselves, this pleasure seeking, all of these things that get us involved in addictions and a life that is out of control, absolutely out of control. So let's bridle these things in. And the only way we can do that is with the help of HaShem. He is here today, and he's saying, let me into your heart. I will help you. We will overcome together all of these attributes that the evil inclination has just, he's warmed us. He has caught this, the evil inclination, the enemy has caused us to be lukewarm, where we just stop caring. We stop caring about others. We stop caring about HaShem. We stop caring about ourselves, and we start pursuing a life of self-destruction. So, you know, the Revelation tells us that the time comes when Messiah says, I would rather you just be hot or cold, but if you become lukewarm, I'm going to just spew you out. Well, we don't want to be spewed out. We want to be hot. We want to be a lapid for Yeshua. We want to lift up the light of Messiah and go throughout the world and seek those who are lost. Go out into the harvest and glean those who are ripe now for the harvest. They have a heart for HaShem, and we must go out with love and compassion and lift them up and bring them in. B'Shem Yeshua. I encourage you today to have a life of love and joy and shalom by giving yourself to HaShem through compassion and empathy for others. Until we see you again, B'Shem Yeshua, you can do it.